everyone, and welcome to Wellness Wednesdays. I'm Candy Williamson with Creating a Sustainable You. So we're just going to give it a few minutes while people log on here and tune in. We're so glad that you are taking your Wednesday to spend a little time with us. A couple of notes: if we have any technical issues, please be patient with us. So far, we've been doing pretty good, but we just like to make that little note. If you are tuning in for the replay, feel free to continue to comment below. We will return and respond to those comments and ask your questions while we're going through. I'd love for you to ask anything to learn more about Nikole and Makers and Shakers. And if you feel someone would be interested in learning more about this wonderful group of entrepreneurial women and the support that it provides and the opportunities, please share this with the women you think that would benefit from that. Also, we have some wonderful past programs that you can find on our Facebook page. And if you are someone who thinks you might be interested in being on a future program, feel free to reach out. We'd love to talk. We're looking at local businesses and people who provide value to our clients and our fan base. So, all right, well, thank you. If you just tuned in, I'd like to introduce you to Nikole Enns of Makers and Shakers. How are you doing today, Nikole?
Hi, I'm great. Thanks.
So I want to just jump right in and find a little bit about where the inspiration for Makers and Shakers came from.
Well, so a little bit about me. I'm an interior designer here in Chico, and I started my business in 2002 and actually 2012.
Oh,
let me reframe that. And so I had been in business for several years and just realized that being an entrepreneur is a pretty lonely road. And I have women in my life that were also business owners and female entrepreneurs. And, every once in a while we would get together and kind of talk about business and life and things like that. And I just thought, man, this would be really cool if we could just get together on a regular basis and talk about business. And so it's been probably about a year and a half ago. I think it was January 2018. I got a group of 6 of us together and we started meeting weekly and just talking about business and life, and just kind of developed a level of intimacy. And that's kind of how it started. So that was like the initiating point, was that group of women getting together. And then from there, it's just grown, and we decided to expand, and we decided to, open up have larger meetings and have inspirational speakers and now workshops and small groups. And we're kind of doing a bunch of different stuff now. So that's a little bit about kind of how Makers and Shakers started.
I love that it came from a place, such a personal place, that, through your process of opening a business, and I've been through similar, and so many people are out there, and it's true, there just isn't, and especially as a woman, we do have slightly different challenges. And, as being mothers and business owners and wives and trying to balance it all, having that unique support of the things that we talk about just as women and how they're impacted by the sacrifices we make to start businesses. And so I love that you recognize that need for yourself and that you found that camaraderie with, who were the original 6?
So myself, obviously, and we have Morgan Fuller, who's a photographer. We have Shannon McConney, who's also an interior designer. Shannon Roseanne, who is also a photographer. Alon Bagwell, who is a registered nurse injector and works at a spa. And then we have Jody Drysdale, who is I'm totally going to get this wrong. She's an event coordinator. Yeah. And there's a very specific term for what she does, and I feel like I always get it wrong. So Jody, I'm really sorry if I messed that up. But she is plans all kinds of events and is amazing at planning events. So that's Jody.
She's
Yeah.
incredible. Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
the way that she coordinated my friend's wedding and she puts on fundraisers and all kinds of
Yeah.
amazingness. So
Yeah.
I love that there isn't a sense of competition in
Hmm.
makers and shakers, that, there's camaraderie and support, that there's multiple photographers and multiple interior designers, and that, this is a place where you come together to build each other up.
Yeah.
And I think that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, that was really important to me personally, because I just think that when we get in that mindset of competition, that there's just so much like angst and anxiousness that comes. And when you feel supported by people, even like specifically in your industry, like for example, Shannon McConney, who's in our original group, that does the same thing that I do, like we are able to make each other better because we understand what we're doing. And I refer people to her because she's better at some things than I am. And she refers people to me because I do things, differently than she does. And that feeling of support is just like, it's so essential, I think, to being successful, is having people around you that, kind of elevate you and
Yeah.
your business, your strengths. And so, yeah.
And especially when, in this unique setting that you can communicate, and we all have our unique clienteles. And I think that one of the foundational beliefs is in abundance, right? That, it's not a scarcity mentality. There's not that,
Yes.
that, we can't share clients. There's, hey, like I've been through this. This is what I did. And we all have our unique experiences and have something to offer one another. And I love that.
Yeah. I mean, there's the tagline or hashtag or whatever, community over competition, which I just think is super important.
Yeah.
Yeah, to build community and not. And I think it's kind of an older mindset, like business mindset, that like we just have to compete against each other. And I think that's part of, I think, why maybe Makers and Shakers has had the appeal that it's had, because that's really part of our foundation is we are here to not compete, but to support each other and see everybody succeed. And I love the way you explain that, like abundance over scarcity. Morgan, who's in the group, she's shared that with us a ton. And I think it's so important because there's enough to go around. There are enough design clients, there are enough, for you, people that want massages and healthcare, and we don't have to step on someone else to succeed personally.
Hmm. Yeah, one of my favorite things. Some of my best friends I've met at events where we were offering massage or services, similar services, and just being able to communicate. And I love creative problem solving. It's my favorite thing, which is part of what healing is about too. And business is, you have to be a creative problem solver, because when you
Totally.
start something new, or when you're trying to discover, where the cause of pain or suffering is coming from, you need to really get in there and dissect. And you've never done it before, and each
Yeah.
person is different, and each business situation is different. And so with some of my best friends um, in the industry, we really became close, because when they would say something, I would go, oh, well, what about this, that, and the other thing? And they're like, oh, this is great, you should teach a class on this. And all of that led to opening the massage school, which,
Mm.
I had some people say things like, oh, but isn't that in direct competition with your wellness
Mm.
center? And I'm like, no, it's in support of it.
Yeah.
We need more healers, we need more people. And I've only gotten to go to one of the events, the one in February. I think we said it was on the 12th at the Commons, and
Uh-huh.
so many amazing women in there. A lot of women in business that I've already known and respect, and just are beautiful people. And I loved seeing them there, and so many more. How many
Mm-hmm.
women are involved in Makers and Shakers, or were pre-COVID?
Well, it's hard to quantify. I mean, I think, based on our events, we've had, at that particular event, I think we had probably a little over 80, around 80 women
Mm-hmm.
that showed up. And I know there were a lot of new faces that came to that social event compared to our event that we had in January with Sarah Fragoso, where she was our inspirational speaker, and it was, you know, like more of a sit down event. And I think we had around the same number there, but I know there were a ton of new faces at the social event that I didn't see at the other one. So it's really hard to tell, you know, how many people we really have that are involved, because we're not a membership, you know,
Yeah.
organization. We don't require any membership. It's just come when you can and it works for you. And we're really trying to offer a lot of things that work. I think, you know, not everybody wants to come to a social event. Not everybody wants to come to a large inspirational session, and not everybody wants to be in a small group. And, you know, and then we're also part of our, you know, moving forward plan is to offer specific skill-based workshops.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, we're trying to offer a lot of things to a lot of different women, and just to try to support women in business. So
Yeah, and Kelly was wondering if you're going to be doing another event at the Commons. Have you guys discussed congregating again or planning any in-person events?
we have, it's really hard to know. We don't have anything scheduled at this point, just because we don't know exactly when we're going to be able to do that and what that's going to look like. So, but I mean, we have future speakers lined up. We definitely want to do more social events. And like I mentioned, the smaller skill-based workshops. So we definitely have things planned for the future. We just don't have any dates, and we don't have anything really specific at this point, because we're just kind of waiting to see, you know, what happens with COVID. And obviously we don't want to, you know, endanger anyone.
So how has COVID affected the momentum of Makers and Shakers?
So initially, it was a challenge, because we had several things planned on the schedule that we had to cancel. And, you know, that's always a bummer to have
Yeah.
to cancel things. And so many, I mean, obviously we're not the only ones that had to cancel things. So, and I think, you know, for me, and I'm sure a lot of people, you know, it's like we had this, the month of March, pretty much it was like nothing was happening. And I even felt that way kind of on social media. It was like, you know, how do we keep momentum when we're not doing what we had planned to do or were doing?
Yeah.
And so I think there was some silence. Like, you know, we had a little bit of time where it was just, we didn't really have a plan. And at one of our, so we continued our we call it our Maker Pod, the
Can
original.
you talk a little bit about the Maker Pods?
Sure, yeah. So our original 6, I came up with the term Maker Pod, which they all give me crap for. I love like terms and terminology, and I think it helps to kind of explain what we do. And so they just tease me. I think it's funny. But
Yeah.
anyways, so we started, I just think it's super important to have small groups where you can have, you know, intimacy and talk about all kinds of, you know, business and life. And so we kind of have been opening that up, and we organized Maker Pods. I think we started that either January or February. So we had a little bit of a start to our Maker Pods meeting in person before COVID happened. And so, I mean, basically those are just, you know, groups of women getting together and building relationship and talking about business. And I think at that point in time, I think we maybe had 10 of them. But I'm, you know, of course, through COVID, people haven't been able to meet, and it's hard to, you know, continue to grow that connection when you can't meet in person. But our group, we did virtually. We would meet every Tuesday on Zoom, and, you know, everybody would have their coffee and usually be in your PJs. And we just talk about, like, how do we move forward? What do we do during this time? How can we keep our, you know, businesses, you know, solvent, and all of the things that, you know, we all were experiencing. And at that point in time, Shannon Roseanne, she's a photographer. She had mentioned, she said, why don't we do Instagram lives on Makers and Shakers? Which I had been thinking about it, but I didn't have any paradigm for it. I had never gone live, and it's I don't know, it's nerve-wracking to like think about, you know, going live in front of people. And I was like, what are we going to talk about? What will we do? And so she was kind of that push that kind of pushed us towards doing live interviews. And so that's kind of how we pivoted during COVID, because we wanted to stay connected to our audience. And we do those on Instagram. We also obviously have a Facebook, but that's kind of where most of our interactions happen, is on Instagram currently. And so we started this series called Meet a Maker, where we interview, it's kind of like what you're doing. We interview local women who are entrepreneurs and just find out about their business, and kind of similar questions to what you're asking, you know, how COVID's impacting them. And that's been really fun. And so that's kind of one way that have pivoted during COVID, to kind of keep, you know, that connection with our audience.
Yeah, and I foresee so many more pivots with technology, and especially at this time, business owners who have not been able to be open, or when reopening it's so drastically different, that they're needing to make pivots. And so, looking forward to maybe more virtual pods and conversations around that. Like you've just set up this wonderful platform and group of women to connect in business. And right now, businesses really do need to connect with one another, because so much is changing and shifting so fast that even, if no solutions are brought up, that camaraderie and that support and the awareness that, I didn't get out of bed for a few days and do anything, and that I wasn't the only one who went through that, and that especially as a business owner, you're like, what do I do? There's a lot of scary things that people have been through. And so I'm excited to see what you do to continue to support women in business. And I feel like it's more crucial than ever. So
thanks.
Yeah.
We've got some plans for the future.
Yeah.
I'm excited about. I think one thing that we also, in addition to the Meet a Maker series, we started a series called Listen and Learn, which we really want to elevate women of color and hear their stories. And I think it's just super important with the current climate. And I mean, it's been important for a long time. And I think that, some of us are just kind of catching up. And so that's one thing that we really want to continue to do as well.
Well, when we look at even within business, women are typically paid less than men, and women of color are paid less than white women. And so addressing those topics and bringing more light onto those subjects and creating more of a community support for that and an awareness, I think is huge. Like, it's a wonderful pivot that you've been able to take and to add that piece in. So I've loved watching your interview series, and I love the people you've had on. And how are you deciding who's on or scheduling that? Is that just women who have been active? And
some of it is people that are being suggested to us, and then I also just opened it up, anybody that's interested that would like to be interviewed, to just message me and tell me about your business. And so it's really open to anyone that's a woman in business, for our Meet a Maker series. And then for the Listen and Learn, any woman of color, we just want to hear their stories and bring awareness to their life experiences. So, and it's a double bonus if they're an entrepreneur as well, because of course, that's like where our heart is. We really want to bring awareness to women in business. So,
yeah. So, you were talking about, let's see if I have a brain fart while we're talking. So you were talking that you do have a lot of events that you have planned, even though they're not scheduled yet. Are any of those looking like they're going to become virtual events? Or are you pausing until more in person can take place? Or have you guys, do you know yet?
So we had an event scheduled where our speaker was going to be Amy Toma, who's the president and CEO of Chico Chamber.
Mm-hmm.
And so what we decided to do was have a virtual webinar with her, which we did do that, and it was great. And we have on our website, we have all of our virtual chats and our virtual webinars on there. So we did do what was planned to be an in-person meeting virtually. And then we had another one with Laura Kutsona, who is the she runs the Jesus Center, and that was amazing. She had so many good things to say. And so, you know, people can go and watch those, which were great. And I think that currently we've kind of paused those because I feel like we're hopefully close to going back to in person. I mean, we might have to limit the number, which we could do that. And so I'm kind of just holding out hope that soon we're going to be able to do our in-persons again. And, you know, we have a list of speakers. Alexa Benson, I believe is her last name. She's the CEO of North Valley Community Foundation. And she was on our docket for May, which obviously that didn't happen. And then in the fall, we had scheduled a couple of other people, a friend of mine who's a Chinese American, and she's I've just been recently talking to her about, you know, addressing the issues of race, and she's a professor down in the Bay Area. So anyways, we've got a lot of exciting things coming, and we've got workshops, you know, that we're gonna open up. Specifically, Morgan Fuller is she's kind of gonna redo, she did one last November, but redo one on social media and basically, you know, how to grow your business through social media. Yeah, and then we have, you know, our maker pods, and we're also joining with Chico State to read the book in common, which is How to Be an Anti-Racist by, I wrote it down, Ibram X. Kendi. Which I have not started yet, but I've heard it's amazing. And so anybody that wants to join us and read that book, and I'm hoping that we can do small groups to discuss, because I think it would be a really important discussion to have with people, even if they're virtual, if, you know, people aren't comfortable meeting outside at a cafe.
Yeah. And
yeah.
That's so wonderful. I listened to Brene Brown interview him, and
Nice.
it was really powerful. I'm excited and looking forward to reading the book myself. And I love that you're doing this in a way where we can connect and cultivate and just bring more awareness to it and support in it. So I do know, you know, within my friends, you know, for Caucasian, sometimes it's like we don't know what to do, right? Or how to shift, or in what ways. And listening to him speak with her, it was very insightful in just, you know, bringing awarenesses to the tendencies and habits that we have that are unconscious and making them conscious.
Yes.
And so that's beautiful. Yeah. So what are the best ways for people to connect with you, to get involved, to participate?
Following us on Instagram is a great way, because we post a lot of information on there. And then also you can sign up for our email list, which is another great way to, you know, get updates on events and, you know, links to resources and things like that. And you can go to our website, which is makersandshakerscheco.com. And there's a sign up there for our email list. And there's also the virtual chats that I talked about and other information on our website.
Are there links to your social media there?
Yeah. Yeah. If you scroll down to the bottom, there's links for Facebook and for Instagram. Yeah.
And then we'll be adding those links as well to this post. So, you know, if you're watching this, if you're watching the replay, make sure to look in the comments. We'll be adding the contact info for Makers and Shakers to the post. And yeah, it's been really lovely talking to you and getting to know you a little better. And I love that we're able to share your mission and all of the great things that you're doing with Makers and Shakers. And I hope that people take advantage and get more involved and see the great things that you're doing.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate the opportunity. And I just am so happy to talk to you.
Well, we want to thank everyone for tuning in to our Wellness Wednesday here with Nikole Enns and Makers and Shakers. If you are watching the replay, make sure to make comments. We will reply so they won't go unnoticed. And tune in. We are doing this every week. We're having wonderful speakers about what's going on in the community and also ways that you can grow yourself, support yourself, and heal yourself. Um, and share this if you feel someone you know would be interested in this information, could benefit from such a wonderful group of networking entrepreneurial women. And yeah, thanks for tuning in. I'm Candy at Creating a Sustainable You, and thank you, Nikole Enns, for joining us today.
Thank you.